Ubisoft is a contentious name in the games industry. At the same time that they have some of the biggest franchises, and almost everyone has played a handful of their games, they continuously fail to grow as a company, as each new title they release fails to meet heights to keep the business afloat. But with 45 studios dropping stock value year over year, they need to turn the tide. They released 10 games last year, but canceled an additional 7 games in the past 2 years that we even know of. With each new leak from investor meetings, Ubisoft seems more desperate than ever to turn the tide in their favor and rebuild the path to success at the top of the industry. And after 10 years, their longest, biggest project to date, their $120 million game has finally come out. I'm Sin, and this is Skull and Bones, Ubisoft's sinking ship. To understand where this game came from, we have to roll back almost 10 years' time. Back when Ubisoft were a growing company, putting out yearly releases. The Assassin's Creed titles were their biggest franchise, and the one that really put them on the map. Assassin's Creed 3 was a story exploring America's revolutionary period, and include a few small sections of the game where the player could host their own ship. Both players and developers loved it so much, their next game would make this mechanic the focus of the title, in Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And this game was big. It is arguably the best title in the entire franchise, with people debating if someone had finally surpassed Ezio. The game was such a smash hit, Ubisoft decided to start development on Black Flag Infinite, a multiplayer expansion to the title that would fulfill all the pirate needs for generations to come. And as the project took longer and longer to make, the title switched from Black Flag Infinite to Skull and Bones. And that would be all that's known of the project for the next 10 years. Smash cut to modern day, where after all this time they released the open beta, and 60 gigabytes download later, I started the long-awaited Skull and Bones. And, there's no nice way to say this. So let's talk about it. Skull and Bones opens on a ship. Your ship. You are the captain at the helm, fighting at sea. The game teaches you the basics in classic tutorial fashion, and like any story before the 1800s, the British come and destroy everything, destroying your ship and killing your crew. But alas, you survive. You're saved by 2 strangers and brought back to the chief officer, who scolds you and offers you directions to Pirate's Paradise in exchange for the fallen cargo in the sea. And after doing such a quick and meaningless task, you return and then are told the chief officer will not be telling you where to go, and you have to find your own way to St. Anne. You then return to the ship which held the cargo, find a map, and go to St. Anne anyway. So, what was the point of all this? I get to the tutorial, but this is also the start and the setup for the entire start of the game. There's never an explanation to anything you talk about. No explained setup other than you're a pirate. The dialogue so far is empty. The combat during the opening is slow and noticeably boring. The ship sailing has not grown in any way since Black Flag. The characters and its world feel lifeless. This is the point after 10 years where you should set forth a large-scale precedent that hooks me in to want to buy and play the full $60 game. After the full introduction, you get to St. Anne, and you get to start your main quests, meeting all the different shopkeepers of the town, and Skurlock. They give you a variety of quests that whittle down to go to this part of the sea, kill this thing, or retrieve this item. Then sail back to St. Anne. And this might work if there was some kind of driving motivation from the characters, or any kind of story that I cared about. If the ship sailing was amazing or enthralling, or the combat was intense, or anything beyond just pressing right click and then left click. There's no incentive to sit here and go do the PvE missions. There's no incentive to go and kill the other players and be the greatest pirate to ever live. When I boot this game up and heard that the levels were called Reputation. I thought that there would be a cool system like in Sea of Thieves or New World, where you can grow as a player, and the more you succeed, the more it incentivizes other players to want to attack you. And with each NPC ship being owned by a faction, maybe they would remember you, and there would be consequences for your actions. None of that. There's none of that. When you attack an NPC ship that's owned by a faction, it says that the faction is now hostile. The second you stop attacking them, you're now neutral. All it means is if there are other ships nearby of the same group, they will also attack you. They don't remember, they don't call in reinforcements, nothing. Knowing the groups and factions in this game that they belong to doesn't matter. So why they take the time to specify what faction each person belongs to, I don't know. In Sea of Thieves, there are emissary flags you can fly on your ships. This grows your payout multiplier when selling to those same emissaries, and players can kill you and steal said flags to sell at the Reaper's hideout for big sums of money. It's a risk-reward system to further incentivize players on top of already stealing all your chests and loot. In New World, there are 3 player-led factions for each world and server. These factions own sections of the map. The more missions they do in their areas, the nicer their bases can become. But players from rival factions can also do quests there, and start a war for that territory in doing so. Who wins that war keeps that territory, and the best way to get money and improve your territory is in PvP-enabled missions. And none of that is present in Skull and Bones. But Sin, surely the resource management system and treasure hunting is fun? No. In fact, the only place you can actually get off your ship is at neutral towns for markets. There is no treasure hunting like in Sea of Thieves. There are no tall tales. If you want resources, you have to mine them through quick-time events while on your ship. But surely those are worth some money, right? Surely there's a lot of customization and depth in the crafting and creation of your ship, which you spend all of your time on, right? No. After one mission, I bought 1,000 cannibals. I have 1,000 cannibals! Why do I have 1,000? What do I need 1,000? With tutorial money. This all fit onto my ship, and over my time playing the beta, I didn't even realize there was a weight limit at all. There's no depth in the crafting or upgrades of your ship. And even worse, when you get on your ship or craft anything, the game has to play a cutscene to show that you're on your ship or that you're crafting something at the blacksmith. Every time. You can play with your friends, but not be on the same ship like Sea of Thieves. And listen, I get it. This is the beta and first launch, and it took time for Sea of Thieves and New World to get it right too. But they've had 10 years with this game. There's more depth and interest in Black Flag than there is in Skull and Bones. And you would think they would have had some sensibility to mimic or copy something from any of the games I talked about. And it would be okay if there was anything in this that made me hopeful that they could patch in a fix or improve on it in future. But this game is a nothing sandwich. There's nothing here. And I hate more than anything sitting here and just shitting on it. I want Ubisoft to succeed and not have to close studios or fire employees. I want to enjoy this and go buy the game. But there's no incentive for me to do so. Why would I not just go reinstall Sea of Thieves? As much shit as we all give Rareware, that's a fun game. Why would I not go back to just New World? Or World of Warcraft? Or Pirate 101? Who is this game made for? What were they thinking? Why would they not have just scrapped this whole thing like 5 years ago? Because they had to. When speaking in an investors meeting, Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot was asked why they were charging $70 for the title. If it's live service, and they plan to add microtransactions and seasonal battle passes, why not maximize the money they can make by making it free, or even cheaper and more accessible? It's been proven with games like Fortnite, League of Legends, Counter-Strike, and so many other free games that it's the most profitable method, as ironic as it sounds. And Ubisoft CEO gave probably one of the worst quotes to ever leak from an investor meeting ever. Quote, "You will see that Skull and Bones is a fully fledged game." Yes, this is a real quote. "It's a very big game, and we feel that people will really see how vast and complete that game is." This is not a joke. This is a real quote. "It's a really full, triple, quadruple A game that will deliver in the long run." Besides how incentivized he's to say that this game is a game that games and is gaming at a quadruple A game level, and how stupid this quote is, while everyone mocks him for saying this, if you look into it, I think we can explain why he said this. Because I don't think they actually plan to support this game. I think this game is launching with a hole in its hull, and they plan to just let it sink. You see, they had to make this game. Back in 2008, Ubisoft opened their new studio, Ubisoft Singapore. And along the way, they made a deal with the Singapore government to provide work and projects for the country and its people. And in return, besides being allowed residency in Singapore, they would help financially support Ubisoft in their development endeavors, aka give them money for all my financial bros in the back. Somewhere along the way, Skull and Bones became the project they promised the Singapore government they would make. So even passing the deadlines well beyond what they initially endeavored for, with half a dozen delays on the project and pushing past $120 million, it's probably still their best option to put this game out. Canceling the project would almost immediately mean the collapse of Ubisoft Singapore, all the financial benefits from the Singapore government, and probably more to reprimand Ubisoft for not fulfilling their contract. To what end, we don't know. And the $120 million price tag could be a much smaller sum that we know of, mostly due to the backing of the Singapore government. Is it probably still a lot of money to lose? Yes, but in comparison, the alternative of just canceling the project and likely going directly into bankruptcy for all of Ubisoft's 45 studios is much, much worse. So, as funny as this quote is, it's as bullshit as it sounds. He just has to lie to investors, because it's not a good look to say, hey, this shit's gonna flop. We know it's gonna flop. We're not confident in it. This is just a soft cancellation, since we can't actually cancel the game. As in, they're gonna put this ship out to sea and just let it sink on its own and reap the rewards of completing the title. The few rewards that are left. Because Ubisoft isn't in a good place right now. Their stock is nearing all-time lows, and they're bigger than ever. They have so many projects in their pipeline and so many more in the graveyard behind them. They have to move forward. They're relying so much on X-Defiant, Assassin's Creed, and Star Wars Outlaws right now. Though, recent quotes about gamers not owning anything, pushing subscription models, and their failure to start live service titles makes everything so much more muddy for the future of Ubisoft. Half their major releases don't meet expectations financially. Mario vs. Rabbids Just Dance, Ubisoft is burning an absorbent amount of money. And leaked emails and investors' calls show a desperate Ubisoft, clawing to even survive while facing possible strikes and HR lawsuits. I want to sit here and ask us all to band together to try and save a failing company. But I can't do that if they don't give me something worth buying or banding together over. And thus, Skull and Bones, expectedly, earns a 1 out of 5. Hey, thanks so much for watching the video. I'm trying to hit 10K by the end of the year, so do me a solid. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below for early access to content, behind the scenes, and so much more. Go ahead and head over to the Patreon. Prices start as low as $1 a month. Thanks. Bye-bye.